in this show, we're going in a bit of a different direction. We're talking starting fives. We're talking about the players that and the teams that we think are locked into their starting five. We'll also categorise them. You know, some teams have absolutely no direction. We're going to break it all down in this show to give you an idea on who you should be targeting in your drafts and maybe who you should steer clear of. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Ball Logic Fantasy Basketball Podcast. I'm your host Braino, joined by Malley in the studio, mate. You had a little bit of time off, which has been great, and I can see you're tonguing for it. You're ready to get into the show, and this was your idea. So, mate, first of all, how you been?
I've been doing very well. Before I went away, because I wasn't taking my computer with me, I put a whole bunch of little Instagram reels together, ready to load up each day. You know, like a little like an advent calendar, just opening one up per day, getting my chocky out. And ironically, I was laughing with the boys playing golf the other day because I'd made a one about Fred VanVleet. Really proud of myself about him having a big bounce back. And then I reckon it was honestly an hour later that the news came out that he was done. Well, basically out for the fantasy season at least anyway. And I was like, damn it. So I had him on a trampoline bouncing back, and then I thought, that's an easy fix. I'll just chuck the trampoline out and put a hole there. That's how my mind works.
Welcome to content. As soon as you put something out even as soon as it goes into Canva and you start making it, you're putting it out into the universe, and something's going to come back at you, I reckon, whenever you do that.
100%.
Happens a lot. But, mate, this show, your idea, I like the premise behind it. We're talking about starting fives. We're talking about the teams that are locked in, or that we think are locked in. We're also talking about the teams that probably could go in one or two different directions. We're talking about the ones that have three guards to fill one spot, three starters, and then not much else. And then we're talking about the complete messes at the end. There's a couple of them. Talk to us about how this is all going to work, mate.
Yeah, because the way I think of it is like a sliding scale, from one end being safe and the other end being sketchy, and everything in between. And the reason we're doing this is because we want to make it clear, because I think to a lot of people, they hear the names, but they don't really realize the risk of these guys potentially not starting. And I'd hate for someone to pick someone up with their ninth pick, eighth pick, and go, this guy's playing for sure. Like there's nothing else. There's no other way. And then realize that really they probably picked up a flyer rather than a sure thing. So, I just started thinking about this myself, and I thought it's probably good to put this down on paper. I've got my list together here from as much as I've heard with my ear to the ground, and I'll be interested to see as we go along whether you want to slide up one end, down to the safe end, or up to the sketchy end, depending on what your thoughts are. But yeah, we'll soon see.
We will, mate. We may as well kick things off. Before we do, hit the subscribe button, guys. It really helps us grow the show. It's pretty much why we're here. So hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future episodes. And there's a new hype button now on YouTube. So if you want to go and hit that hype button, it helps us get the show out to more people. And for those on audio, hit that follow button. Leave us a 5-star review if you do like the content. Malley, we'll kick off to you, mate. We've got the first, let's call it category. We do play category leagues, so it'd be rude of us not to use that word in this show. Pencil it in. So teams that we're relatively confident that they've locked into their starting five. Take us away, mate. We've got 7 teams in this category.
Yeah, there's 7 here that I think are as sure a thing as we can probably think of. One is a team that really didn't change much last year either, which is Cleveland. So I've got Garland at the 1, Don at the 2, Hunter at the 3, which is obviously 2 weeks ago wouldn't have been the case. Mobley at the 4 and Allen at the 5. This team could have probably been in that next category down had the injury not occurred and Hunter not been sealed probably into that third spot. Obviously, Lonzo, we are assuming, takes the helm while Garland finishes repairing himself. Yep. What do you think? Pretty locked in on that one?
Yeah, there's no other way I can see that going personally. It's got to be that starting 5 at least to start, and then depth-wise, they don't have a ton of depth behind them at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see where they go from that 5. But they'll probably have to play big minutes initially.
Yeah, they don't want an injury, that's for sure. Which leads me to my next team, which kind of sit in the same place. They didn't do a lot of changes last year. They've let go of Russ this year, meaning that this team moved into the pencil it in because you never really quite know. He grew on them as the year went along. Obviously, they didn't have plans to take him any further. But I've got Murray in the 1, Brown in the 2, Cam, their new introduction, just slotting in and replacing In the third position there at the small forward, I got Aaron Gordon in the 5, and then I got in the 4, and then I got Jokic in the 5. I can't see any changes. They've obviously moved a lot of guys in, but that's basically strengthening their bench. So I'm pretty happy with those 5.
Yeah, the only guy I could see that might force his way into this starting lineup would be Bruce Brown, but I think he's the perfect 6-man candidate anyway. So I think he'll run the bench. He'll be the first man off the bench, and and Brown did a great job last year. He started in the majority of games last year, so I think they're locked into that direction. And it's a bit of a swapsy for Cam Johnson and Michael Porter Jr. Really, it's similar player in a sense too.
Yeah.
So 1 for 1.
On the Brown debate, I think Brown with an R-A-U-N, the young fella. I think that he suits the starting lineup better. And the other Brown, the traditional spelling of, even though he's coming back and he knows the system, I think he'll just work well off the bench. The third team is another one that's undergone a lot of changes, but again, basically changes to their bench unit, which is the Clippers. I've got Harden in 1, Beal in 2, Kawhi in 3, Collins in 4, and Zoo in 5. I think that's how they'll start. They have some flexibility around the teams that they come up against because they can play small ball. They've obviously got CP3. I can't see him starting at all. That's why I've put it in, pencil it in. And obviously they've got a very competent backup for Zoo. But yeah, they're a lock for me.
Yeah, small ball 5 probably will look like Derek Jones Jr. coming into the starting lineup potentially. But that's aside from it. You look at this starting 5, it's probably one of the strongest in the comp, really. So they'd be silly not to roll that out.
They are old, so we'll see how long it starts that way, but that's what the opening night's going to look like. The next team, number 4 in the pencil-it-in category, is Miami. Obviously, with Davion Mitchell probably starting until Hero repairs himself, but I've got Hero, Powell, Wiggins, Bam, and then Ware filling in the 5th spot there. We had a little scare with Precious Achiuwa coming back, but I can't see that changing the starting lineup in any way. So I'm going to lock them in. I can't see that changing. Maybe as things go along, if Powell and Wiggins probably, step on each other's toes, there might be some changes. You never quite know. They're technically playing 2 centers, but I'm happy to pencil that one in right now for night 1.
Yep, 100%. I'm with you on that too. I think Khalil Ware at center, he's too good to be behind Bam and moving Bam to the 4, even though it does kind of cuck Jovic a little bit, and Hami Huckers as well probably gets stuck down that rotation a little bit. It's necessary, I think. Ware's way too good to be riding the bench.
Toronto's my 5th team here. For the first time in a while, they actually got a starting lineup with names that we recognise, not just two-way and kind of G League-ish players. Ingram obviously shakes things up a little bit, but I got quickly RJ, Ingram, Scotty at the 4, and then Pirtle safe as houses at number 5 in the big man spot.
There's no depth at all anywhere on this roster. I would imagine that it's going to take us back to, a few years ago where Toronto were playing 38, starters were playing 38 minutes a night. I genuinely can't see them playing less than 36, personally.
Yeah. And, you can always land a battle or something coming in and replacing quickly if he gets hurt. I'm sure those old names will start to rear their heads at some point in the season. But for night 1, I think they're a lock. My second last team here is Dallas. I know you might want to say that they probably should be dropped to the next category on the big man pick, but I've got Kyrie. If he ever comes back, that'll be D'Lo to start. I can't see any other way that goes. Clay at 2, Flag playing out of position at 3, AD at the 4, probably also inverted commas playing out of position, and then Lively in the big spot. Even though I think he's starting the season maybe with an injury as well, or at least healing from. So.
I feel like Lively and Gafford have both just shared injuries over the last year. And when one's fit, the other one isn't. So we haven't seen what this actual rotation looks like properly. And again, they probably could go in the one of two ways category. Gafford could start. There could be a world where Gafford starts. I think he's still good enough to do that. I think Lively's got more talent and probably has the higher ceiling and the guy that they want to lean their development into at his age. So they probably do go that way, but it's not a sure thing.
Yeah, it's concerning, isn't it? Like Kyrie obviously starting the season out, may not even play. Clay, he's not getting any younger, and he's had some big injuries in the past, as we know of. ADs refer to the glass man. Lively for a young fella seems to be up the creek without a paddle a lot of the time. And my last team, so we can kind of fly into the next category, which things get a little bit more juicy, was Orlando. Again, like most of these teams here, they've inserted at least one fresh face into the starting lineup. I've got Suggs. Now he's healthy again. Bain, Wagner, Paolo, and then Carter Jr. The only one I toyed with to keep him in this category was Carter Jr. Again, a little bit like Lively. I don't know how set they are on him being their big man, but I mean, I don't think they really have an option that appeases them at the moment, so they're safe for me.
It could be matchup based as well, though. You know, I think they ran with Goga Batadze a fair bit at different times last year in the right matchup. You know, obviously probably a better defender inside than Wendell Carter Jr., but obviously Carter Jr. spacing the floor and being able to shoot that three ball just gets him the edge. But he did play some really good ball off the bench last year in shorter minutes, Wendell Carter Jr. So I don't know whether they lean into that a little bit more, but yeah, I think he's got it to start with at least.
Yep, and there's plenty of defense there. Now, this next one I've got, this next kind of category, we were talking categories, is like a question to answer. There's one or two ways I think it could go. I'd be interested to see what you think. So the first team I've got here is Atlanta. I think this one's been widely talked about and everyone has an opinion. Trey's lock at the 1, Dyson's lock at the 2. Things get interesting at the 3 because they could either go Ricochet, Jalen Johnson, Zinger to line up with, or they could go Trey, Dyson, Jalen Johnson at the 3, which I don't think really works. It's a bit of a square peg round hole situation. Zinger at the 4, which we know he can play quite well, and then a Congo at the 5. So I'm leaning towards the first option with Ricochet. What about yourself?
Same. I am too. I don't think they want to play Jalen Johnson at the 3. I think they showed that they wanted to avoid that as much as possible last year in different situations where he could have done it. And Ricochet was obviously off the bench at different points last year as well, and they still went with the other option. Krejci played a fair bit of minutes as well at the 3. Like I just think they're going to avoid Jalen Johnson at the 4, at the 3. I think Ricochet, also development-wise, I think he came on in leaps and bounds in the second half of last year after the All-Star break. So I think they'll probably lean into his development, get him some minutes. You know, he's starting to come good, could have a bit of a leap this year. I think obviously Okongwu's nearly too good to be off the bench, stuck behind Porzingis, but this is the year to really attack the East, and I think they just need to have their best and most balanced lineup. And I'm just not sure that having Kristaps at the 4 is their most balanced lineup defensively.
I also think that Zinger, if his pass is anything to go on, is going to sit plenty of games. Back-to-back's probably included in that. And Okongwu and Ricochet are going to have plenty of starts. But yeah, I'm going with lineup number 1 with Ricochet starting. And, you know, he's the number 1 draft pick. They've got to do stuff with him. So let's see what he does.
Agreed.
Then I've got Chicago. Now that we've got Giddey locked, that made things a little bit easier. So option 1 is Giddey, White, Okoro, Buzelis, and Vooch. Option 2 for me is Giddey, White, Ayo, Buzelis, and Vooch. So Ayo, he knows the system. He can play 1 through 3 pretty easily. So 3 is not a problem for him. He's probably better suited at the 2. But Okoro, we know what he did. We know what he did in Cleveland. He wasn't needed there. But this team needs defense, and I think that that's probably why I, on a flip of a coin, am going the Okoro direction myself.
I think I'm going Okoro as well, only because I'm looking at their depth. I mean, they've got Kevin Huerter that can play backup too. Who's going to run the second unit? It's Trey Jones, Jevon Carter. There's not really anyone there that can run the second unit unless it's Dosunmu. I think he's probably the perfect 6-man candidate for this team, and starting him just doesn't make sense. Then you leave yourself a little bit of lack of depth with ball handling in the second unit, so that's probably the way I'd go as well. I'm a Okoro, and he's switchable on defense too, so I think that's pretty important too, especially when you've got Kobe White and Josh Giddey, who are also both quite poor defensively. Yeah,
we talked about Bruce Brown before. I think that Ayo's in a similar situation where he's a bit of a Swiss Army knife. He can play 3 positions. He can handle the ball. He can defend. He can shoot. He doesn't do anything outstandingly. But they just need Okoro's defense. Like he's, besides Buzelis, is the only one who's going to actually do any stopping of the other team. So it doesn't just become a shootout. Can't wait to see Chicago play Washington for them to be 120 to 127 as the end score.
It'll feel like as an Atlanta Hawks supporter, it'll feel like watching every Atlanta game from the last 5 years, where we give up 140, but we score 143. It's good times.
Yeah, the only difference comes down to someone having a missed shot, and that's the difference between a win and a loss. No defense, no like good coaching, nothing like that. It's just you faded on a shot when you shouldn't have. The next one in this same category, the one question, two ways to go, is the Lakers. There's the way I want them to go, and then there's the way that I think they'll go. So the think they'll go way for me is Doncic at the 1, Reeves at the 2, LeBron at the 3, Rui at the 4, those two interchangeable, 8 and at the 5. The way I'd like them to go is Doncic at the 1, Smart at the 2, Reeves at the 3, LeBron at the 4, and then 8 at the 5. I think Smart's an awesome fit for them. I think that defense would be really helpful in a team that's probably not defense first. I worry that he's probably a bit burnt out. He's been off the stage for a little while, but even last year in limited games, he was still like 2 steals a game. He's still like a top 5 steals guy. So from fantasy, we need to pay attention to him. I'd say this is a have your finger hovering over the waiver wire pickup button, and as soon as there's a sniff of him starting, I'd be picking him up straight away. Otherwise, it looks like Rui's their man.
Yeah. The only thing I agree with you on both counts as well, by the way. I think that Smart should start, but I don't think he will. I think that there's two concerns, the concerns and the two things I'll mention on this. Austin Reeves playing at small forward isn't an ideal matchup. Like he could get beaten to a pulp playing against guys that are 6'8", 6'7", that are twice as strong as him. So defensively, I think he'd get found out at the 3. So that's probably why they'll avoid that. But again, you have Smart in the starting unit to be able to guard the best player on the court. That takes the pressure off Luka. Like Luka's a really good passing lanes kind of guy too. He gets 1.8 steals per game in the NBA over the last couple of years. So like having him off ball and not having to guard the best player is good because obviously he's your main offensive weapon too. So it makes sense to try and get him as much rest as possible on the defensive end.
Hey, if you want a good laugh too, next time you watch a Lakers game, make sure when you get onto League Pass, you make sure you listen to the Lakers commentary. Because when I last listened to them, they were like, oh, yeah, and Dalton Connect's out there, and they're going to leave him out there for his defense because it's one of the things he really hangs his hat on. I'm like, Dalton
what?
Okay.
That's interesting.
Obviously, their first time watching, it must be a different Dalton Connect to the one I see out there fumbling around and just like them switching to make sure they attack him first. But you're right, that's Reeves at the 3 is going to be some nasty work if he comes up against, most of the other 3s in this league. It's going to be pretty damaging. So.
Yeah, it will be.
But yeah, I think Smart still gets plenty of run, but I would be picking him up much later than I would a Rui.
Yep.
Even though I don't want Rui either. So
yeah, and Rui as a 6-man's probably not a bad shout either. I like Rui off the bench, firecracker scorer. I don't hate that.
Yep.
So it's probably a better fit.
Yeah, definitely. The next one is Golden State. The question still remains about what Kuminga's doing, but I don't think it'll matter. The lineup that they actually ran with the most last year was Curry, Pods, Moody, Jimmy, Dre. That was a lineup that saw heaps of minutes on the floor. So that's probably the one that I'm starting to look at. There's a potential too, because they may not want to play Dre at the 5 exclusively, that they go Curry, Pods, Jimmy at the 3, which is a position he'd probably prefer to play over the 4. Yep. Dre at the 4, and then Quinton Post at the 5, which is the one I'd like them to play with. I think they probably will go that way. Post for a big man does everything that Kerr wants out of a big man. So yeah, that's what I'm going with.
And I think when you have the problem with Trace Jackson-Davis, he doesn't shoot the 3 ball. So when you've got him on the court, we've got Dre on the court, and you've got Jimmy Butler on the court, 3 guys who don't really shoot the 3 ball at all. That's a concern. Quentin Post being able to spread the floor makes Dre and Jimmy Butler much more playable, and even Kuminga to an extent as well, makes them much more playable together on the court at the same time. We saw them last year lean away from Kuminga and Draymond being on the court at the same time because of those issues. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do there, but I agree. I'd love to see Post start.
And, what's his name? Buddy Hield's a smoky as well. Kuminga, if he stays, will have to get probably a few starts out there. Next one is New Orleans. I've got Murray at the 1. Obviously, I've put in brackets. That'll be Poole to start with. So this whole lineup will have to shake down a little bit, and I have a feeling that might be bad news for Herb in the starting lineup. But for right now, for where we are and who knows when Murray will come back, I don't trust anything that happens in New Orleans as far as injury updates or relevance. So I've got for the remember that there's a placeholding card for Murray, but I've got Poole, Trey, Herb, Zion, and the real question mark for me is: do they play Messi like they did for, well, at least the 2/3 of the season that they did last time, or do they start to shake things up and go with Queen? I think it'll be Missy to start with, and then we'll see what happens after that. They probably have enough gunners out there that they probably want to put Messi out there instead of Queen. Defense is, they've got more of a defensive option in Messi. Not that that's something that, he's absolutely on lock and known for, but Queen, that's really not a part of his game, at least his college game.
And having Queen and Zion on the court at the same time becomes an issue in itself. So, yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that starting five. I think when DeJounte comes back, it'll be Poole at the 2, Trey at the 3, Zion at the 4, and then whichever direction, Missy at the 5. That's probably the way they go. Herb Jones drops back to the bench, I think, for me. Except, in certain matchups, like you don't really see a lockdown, strong defender on this team, aside from you probably putting Trey Murphy on their best player every night, which isn't ideal. So
he might also be their best scorer, so he can't spread himself too thin. So that'll be interesting to see what they do.
Definitely.
The next one for me is really a toss of a coin. I don't. There's not a way that I prefer it to go, nor is there a way that I would say is 51-49. I reckon it's a straight down the middle is New York. So the Knicks are obviously going to start Brunson. They're going to have Bridges in there. Then it can go one of two ways. It can go Brunson, Bridges, Hart, OG, Cat, which is basically what they played throughout the entire year, barring injuries. Or they could make a small change now that Mitch Robinson is healed up and go Brunson, Bridges, OG, let Cat play back at the 4, and then Mitch Robinson at the 5. Any, what is it, the magic ball readings from you on that one?
No magic ball, mate. I think Mitch Rob off the bench is the best option. I think Cat stays at the 5. I just think that they do what they did last year. I'm just looking. I mean, they've got Jordan Clarkson now. That's a great get for their bench unit. Miles McBride, Juice played some good ball last year. They've got a decent amount of depth. The problem is at small forward that they'd have to have Mikal Bridges there. Then it becomes, where do we put Josh Hart? For me, Mitch Robb played his best basketball sub 25 minutes last year too.
Yeah.
Like, do you really want to force him into another 28-minute a night role? He's just not that guy anymore. Just use him as impact. Get him on the court to give Cat a rest, or shift Cat to the 4 if you want him on the court at the same time. But he's not a starter for me anymore.
I think either way they go, Hart's going to lose out, and that's why he's been moving down draft boards, I'd say, pretty readily. It's a shame he played so well last year. No one really expected he was in that same category as a Jalen Johnson or a Dyson Daniels or a, what's his name? Zoo, like 3 guys that really stood out and made up that value. I wish that was the magic ball that we had. We'd have 10,000 listeners if we could tell you who the guys were who were going to come out of nowhere.
Then the thing with the Knicks are as well, new coach, minutes are going to come back. This isn't Tom Thibodeau. No one knows because we haven't seen. We've got no reliability on what this is all going to look like. It might be Josh Hart. He might not be a fan. He might drop him back to a bench in a different role. Who knows? Yeah. But it's not Tom Thibodeau, so keep an eye out.
These next two I just want to go through quickly because I don't think that it really matters either way, because the guys that are really the question marks aren't probably top 100 guys anyway. OKC, it's really a question of Dort or Cason Wallace, because SGA, Jalen, Chet, and I think Isaiah Hartenstein, who we didn't really know what they would do with him or what they do with the whitest of white Mambas last year. And clearly they held him out and then just played iHeart more often. So Dort, Cason, I don't really know there's too much to say about that. Old reliable or new up and coming. Neither of them give fantasy value. I guess Cason does because he gets decent steals, but that's about it.
Yep, agreed. I think Cason Wallace honestly needs more minutes. So if that's the way that they need to get him onto the court, Lou Dort's the one that suffers, I think, which is completely fair.
Dort needs less minutes too. The next one, same deal. Phoenix, it's Booker, it's Green, it's Brooks, it's Williams at the 5. The contest really will be, do they want to go with someone who has played the role for a long time and would fit perfectly in as a as a feature of not a feature of this team, as a role player on this team in Royce O'Neal, or do they commit back to Dunn, which is what they did last year? He was kind of their Wells. He was a young guy who really focused on his defense first. Just like Wells in Memphis, the stats never really equated to anything valuable for fantasy, so I don't think it really matters. O'Neal can do all right, but I just think the times he's done all right is where no one else has been there to do anything, and he goes, oh, I know how to do this, and he just fires on through, and he gets rebounds, points, he'll get a block or a steal, and I just don't think that's coming for him.
No, agreed. I mean, Grayson Allen's the only other guy that you could probably see that fits himself in here somewhere. I mean, you could shift to Jalen Green or Grayson Allen could play the 3, but again, they're both quite small for that, so I think, Royce O'Neal's the safe option, probably makes most sense.
Yeah, defs. And the last one in this category is Indiana. Obviously, a team that's had a massive shake-up this year. We don't need to talk anything more about that. Unless you've completely slept since the last game of the finals, the second last game of the finals of last season. You probably know all this. I'm going Nembhard, Mathurin, Naismith, Pascal, and then the only change up here is Huff, who I think they will start with. And then I reckon they might move to Isaiah Jackson and his defense. I think they'll both have decent value in a vacuum because we know that Jackson doesn't need a lot of minutes to do a lot fantasy-wise. Huff the same. He played out of his mind in whatever ridiculous, 16, 18 minutes he played last year. But I feel like they might just end up with a split, and that might be the problem between both of them.
I completely agree. I think, honestly, I would not be surprised we get to the end of the year and it's Huff and Jackson both played 24 minutes each. But there's value in both in 24 minutes. That's completely fine either way. Yeah,
depths. And then we're on to another category. We're moving towards the sketchy end of town now. This is one position to kind of solve 3 men want the job. And ironically, the next 3 teams are all in a predicament with their starting point guard. So the first one is Milwaukee. I think that at the 2, it's Gary Trent Jr. At the 3, it's Kuz. At the 4, it's Giannis. And at the 5, it's Turner. That's a disgusting lineup besides the last 2. 50% of that group sucks. Then it's down to, is it going to be Kev Porter Jr., is it going to be Cole Anthony, or is it going to be Ryan Rollins? I think the best value fantasy-wise would be Kev, not because he's great to watch, but because, remember that one time he got that triple-double?
We've had this has come up many a time on the podcast this preseason.
The most ultimate about guy.
The ultimate box out, where I think 4 blokes were boxing out for him to get that final rebound. Hey, look, a triple-double in the NBA is a triple-double in the NBA, so good on him.
When you can get it.
I'm probably leaning towards Porter Jr. as well. I think Cole Anthony, if he gets the starting job, is a way better option than Kevin Porter Jr. The only reason I would draft KPJ is if he was starting. If he's off the bench, I don't see that much value. Cole Anthony can still put up decent numbers off the bench. So either or, I don't hate either of them. And I think Ryan Rollins is actually quite stiff because I think he did probably the best job out of backup point guards in the league last year for Milwaukee. So, a bit stiff for him, but I think he's probably in third in that list.
And we're talking night 1, too. We're not talking halfway through the season, post-All-Star, where I think Rollins will be the guy who takes over because then they'll realise they're probably not going anywhere and they might as well see what he can do. Like they kind of had that first chapter and a little sneak peek and he was actually quite good. I think Cole's probably for them from a coaching perspective, does well off the bench. He did that role beautifully in Orlando. He was a little bit like, Royce O'Neal when no one else could do it. He's like, I'll do it, and I think that suits him quite well as well. The next one that has a 3-way lock for a starting point guard is Minnesota. At the 2, we've got Edwards, McDaniels at the 3, Randall at the 4, Rudy at the 5. I can't see that going any other way. I feel like that's a complete lock. Great. And then you got 3 options. You can go back to Conley, who stunk it up last year and is obviously past his prime. But even though he stunk, they had to keep getting him back in because they stunk without him. They sucked with him and then they sucked worse without him. DiVincenzo, who's not a true point guard, but they can put him in that position because, they've got Edwards to handle the ball too. Randall can do a little bit of that. Or do they completely throw caution to the wind and go Dillingham and see what he can do? Undersized, he's a bit scrawny. needs to have a few more stakes. But hey, my post going out on Instagram tomorrow is that Skinny's the new thing. So even though we didn't have to get Skinny because he just started Skinny, maybe that they'll just go with someone like that. What do you think out of those three guys?
Yeah, firstly, shout out to Skinny Zion and Skinny Luca who have started the skinny trend. It's really good to see these guys dropping weight. First of all, one, it's going to get Zion paid. So we'll talk about that at another day. But back to your question, Connolly, Dillingham, DiVincenzo. Honestly, whoever it is, it'll be fuck off out of the way, give Anthony Edwards the ball, let him do his thing. And I don't think it really matters who they pick. I think Connolly defensively, I mean, Dante's a good defender too, but I think Connolly, that leadership on court and someone, that level head to make sure you keep Ant, where he needs to be, because obviously he can drift off a little bit in games too. I think having Connolly, it's not about his physical attributes, it's about his leadership on the court that's probably more valuable to them. I think they'll probably start with Connolly, but again, if things go pear-shaped, I think they'll lean into Dante pretty quickly. Although I think it probably should be Dillingham long term. Few options, but I can't give you a definitive answer. But I think whoever it is, it doesn't really matter.
He's not really ready to help them win yet, Rob Dillingham. And DiVincenzo is probably the guy we want because he does the most fantasy-wise. Even though he's probably not the best person for the job, that's who we want because he'll garner the most, the most numbers for us from category standpoints. The next one, my final one in this category is Sacramento. So we've got Levine, DeRozan, Murray, and Sabonis. I can't see anything changing there unless they are the ones to win on the sweepstakes with Golden State. The rumors are still out there that maybe that might be a Kuminga spot. I don't know what they'll do if they get Kuminga. I can't see them giving up on Murray and slotting him in there. They also need the limited defense that Murray gives them because he's probably the best defender out of that group of four. DeRozan could have been, but he's kind of moved past that. It was never a big part of his game anyway. But back to the point that I'm trying to make here is it comes down to one of three guys. It's Schroeder, who they got in and paid decent money for. It's Monk, who they saw, who did the job really well last year. We thought he was just a six-man of the year type guy, but he's more than that. And then they've also got Ellis as well, who, for a guy who just doesn't need the ball at all, that's not really where his game lies, and he can do defensive things. He's probably the best pick out of the three for them. I think they'll go Schroeder just because of the paycheck, and because they're, for some reason, always Sacramento think they're win now at all times. But anyway, what do I know? So I'm going Schroeder at first. Monk, they seem to be trying to farm out, so I can't see them prioritizing him in any way. And then Ellis, man, who knows?
It's been it's stiff. I don't think it's Ellis. I think it's going to be Schroeder as well. I want to find somewhere that I can disagree on you. I haven't found one yet. But I think Malik Monk provides more, let's say he stays in Sacramento, he provides more value off the bench as a six-man than Schroeder would as a six-man.
Yes.
I think Schroeder's a great facilitator. Like, he can score when he needs to, but he can also get everybody else involved around him, and that's what you need for a starting point guard. Malik Monk, I don't think he has the ability to do that. And when you've got Levine, DeRozan, even Keegan Murray shoots a good three ball, and Sabonis, all relatively high usage guys, you can't then have a Malik Monk high usage, the ball needs to be in my hand at all times kind of guy next to those guys. So no. I think Schroeder, fit-wise, Schroeder's definitely the best player. I think he does. And Monk off the bench as the sixth man.
And if you're a Sacramento fan, I'll be getting down to the game and waving my big German flag, because as soon as Schroeder sees that, it's like a red flag to a bull, mate. He just goes nuts. So if you can pretend that he's in Germany, back in the motherland, in Deutschland, he might actually go nuts for you. That gets me on to my second last category, mate. These ones probably a little bit more interesting. I'm conscious of time. We're rolling pretty slow, but some of these conversations coming up probably worth sticking around for. So there's the three starters locked, then it's a bit of a mess. So let's look at Boston first. They've got White, they've got Pritchard, they've got Jaylen Brown. Yep. Will it be Hauser or Boucher? Will it be Huerta or will it be Gaza? I'm going with Hauser and Huerta over Boucher and Gaza.
Same. Yeah, I think it's the word out of Boston is that Pritchard's got the starting role, White at the 2, Brown at the 3, Hauser at the 4, and Quater at the 5. That's how I've got them lining up. Again, Boucher, another guy that's proven that he's a good six-man in different roles. I don't think there is any need, as much as when he gets big minutes, he's great, and I think he's still draftable even as a six-man or as a backup centre, because I don't see... I mean, look at this this depth is putrid. Like, we're looking... Xavier Tillman, Jordan Walsh, Luca Garza, and that is pretty much it across the 4 and the 5 behind Hauser and Quater. Like, there is nothing going there at all. So, yeah, Boucher's going to get some good burn in both positions, I reckon.
Yep. The next one is Brooklyn. Probably could have even gone to the category below because I'm not even sure these 3 guys are a lock. The one that I'm a bit sketchy on is Thomas. They paid him the $9 million. There's no future for him there, so it's hard to tell what they're going to do. Are they going to keep him safe? Are they going to shop him? I don't know. Porter Jr. and Claxter were my 3. Then we've got Yemen or Bufkin. Do they go with, well, they're both new to the team, but do they go with the rookie they chose, or they go with well, he's not a rookie anymore, but he feels like one because of the amount of games he's played with Bufkin. You know, you could put Mann in there, you could put Zaire, you could then put Claxton in between Clowney between Porter and Claxton. If you had to hold a gun to my head, I would go Yemen, Cam Thomas, Porter Jr., Clowney, and then Claxton.
Yeah, okay. I'm probably Yemen, Thomas, Terrence Mann at the 3. I just think that, I mean, he's shown at LA that he can play that role, and he played it pretty well. It's a very different scenario, though, this time around with a bunch of blokes that really are going to be running around not knowing what they're doing. So it's going to be a bit of a mess in Brooklyn, I think, to start. Noah Clowney's a good player. I think he works his way in, but I think to start with, it's Terrence Mann. I'm also a fan of Zaire Williams, but I don't know where we can fit him in. And yeah, Claxton, Porter Jr. at 4 and 5. I think that's I agree that the 3 are locked in, but yeah, that point guard, small forward there is a lottery.
Zaire and Mann are the same guy to me too. I don't. They do the exact same thing in my mind. You know, they've had 1 or 2 outstanding games in their career, and then they just kind of are middling. Besides that, you're right. That probably Clowney is the one to get pushed back to the bench. They probably got less big guys to come and fill in. They probably need to. Dribble them out, you know, like slow release them into the starting lineup. Another hot tip for those people who are able to get to a Brooklyn game. I reckon if you act confidently and wear a uniform even close to the Brooklyn uniform and you just scooch onto the bench, you'll get a run. There's a hot tip. The next one here is Charlotte. Ball, Miller and Bridges, 3 locks. The question mark come in, will they put Knipple or will they put Sexton in the 2 or the 3 because Miller can play the 2 as well? And what do they do with the big guys? Plumlee, old, reliable workhorse, doesn't do very much, but kind of lumbers around. Diabate, who's not really a centre, but can pretend to be one. Or Kalkbrenner, who has no experience, but he's probably will be the best one out of the 3 as time goes on.
Long-term, Kalkbrenner seems like the play, but it just doesn't make... I don't love putting a rookie in there at Charlotte in a team that could just completely implode within a month. You know, I feel like that's just thrown into the wolves. I think it's going to be Diabate that starts. Plumlee play a very specific role, I think, at the 5. I don't know whether he fits in with this starting unit anyway. And coming back to the small forward or shooting guard, I think Miller plays small forward and then Sexton plays the 2. At least to start the year. I don't know whether they're going to want to put Knipple out there in the starting unit and play him big minutes, even though they're pretty shallow at small forward. Like it's Josh Green, it's Knipple, and then a bunch of blokes that, honestly, they're Pat Connaughton, if that tells you what their depth is like.
They'd even put Miller in to start with. So, you know, like, and he's, for all intents and purposes, a better player than Knipple. So, yeah.
100%. Yeah, I think it's
the next one.
2. Yeah.
Next one here in my list of 3 for sure is Cade, Harris, and Duran playing for Detroit. Mm-hmm. Then the question, I think most people think that it'll be Ivy, but they went nuts without him. And I reckon if there's any sign that he's slow, I know there was another lot of contributing factors, you know, chip on the shoulder, coaching, yada, yada, yada. Cade, it got better. But Ivy did feel like a little bit of a blocker in there. But I've got Ivy, Asar, obviously as 2 guys that I think will enter that lineup. But then they have no shooting, really. And that was one of their, the things that really helped boost them last year was the guys that were just sinking all the 3s, you know, and they've lost both of them this year. So Levert can do a little bit of that. Robinson, that's his bread and butter. And I reckon they'll try and squeeze him into the starting lineup, maybe at the expense of Asar, but I don't know.
I think Asar's too good to not be really prioritising his development and his minutes this year. I think you keep him on the bench and you suppress him again for another year. I think you're not going to get what you can potentially get. We saw what Amen Thompson did in Houston, and I'm not saying that he's going to be Amen. but a completely different role, different player. But in saying that, like, it's a taste. It's a taste of what this guy can do. I'm super high on him this year. I think they'd be absolutely out of their mind to not start him. And yeah, on the Ivy factor, it's more which Jaden Ivey wants to turn up. Is it the 43% from 3 Jaden Ivey, or is it the bloke who just chucks up bricks all day? We don't know what he knows. I don't think he knows. Yeah, no. Again, Karis LeVert, not a great shooter. So, like, yeah, he can score, but he's not a good three-point shooter. So, yeah, it doesn't really solve your problem there either. I think it's the way that you've said it.
Need to mash them all together into one player and they'd be sorted. They get the best of everything. The next one, which was going to be 4 guys for sure, but one of them went out and ruined himself. So now Houston has Amen, KD, and Şengün as the sure things. Then it could go a number of ways. Amen could slide across to the 1, which probably reduces the need to have Shepherd in there. They could put Shepherd in there at the 1 and keep Amen at the 2. And then at this like 3-4 position, it could be Smith Jr., it could be Tara Eason, it could be Okogie, it could be Dorian Finney-Smith. There's question marks all the way. I'd like it to be Shepherd, Amen, Tari, KD, and Şengün. I reckon that's the one that they get the most wins from. But
I know you're probably the president of the Tari Eason fan club, so I'm preaching to the choir here. But fuck, this guy needs to get into this. He needs minutes. I don't care if it's off the bench. He just needs minutes. And like, tell me, he's not more effective than Jabari Smith Jr. for Houston.
They need to give up on him.
I just feel like we're flogging a dead horse with him, and they've just gone and re-signed him on another big, long rookie extension. Obviously, they had plans for him with that extension, which concerns me. But yeah, KD at the 4 seems like it makes a little bit more sense for the fit here as well, next to Şengün. And then, yeah,
I think play the 3. So
he can.
And Smith, not so much.
Yeah, he can. Absolutely, I agree with that. And I did see something on Amen Thompson actually doing a lot more primary ball handling work at training, and in the off-season he's been training as a primary ball handler for this team. So that's interesting. Whether they then just let Reed Shepherd play the 1 but just let Amen do the job, and let Reed play off ball a little bit to give him a bit more time to develop. Like, I think maybe that's a play as well. I think you need to... Reed Shepherd's a seriously good player. I think he needs time, and he probably will be in the starting unit. It's just whether they give him the point guard or shooting guard duties, and I think it's just a men's team, really.
Yes, I reckon I agree. Look, we've got 6 teams to go? 6 teams. I got Memphis here as another one. Wells, Triple J, Edie are locks, but obviously there's a mess with the big guys at the moment, so I'm guessing Aldama will get that start because, he's about the last man over 6'8", still standing on the team. The question really comes down to, are they going to try and put Pippen Jr. in or Ty? I think they liked what Pippen Jr. gave them last year, so he's my main bet. He does a little bit of everything. I think they'll keep Wells in there, as I said. And then the question mark will be, will they try and put KCP, Vince Williams in the start there? I'm going with Ja, Pippen, Wells, Triple J, Edie, when everyone's healthy.
Yeah, it's KCP just seems like the most obvious option because he's just a catch and shoot guy now that defends relatively well. And he just fits nearly every team he goes into. He plays the same role. He did the same thing in Orlando. He'll do the same thing in Memphis. It's just boring. And yeah, we're getting to a point now where you've got guys like TJ, like Ty Jerome, who is... I'm a big fan of Ty Jerome. I think there's every chance Ty Jerome could be the starting shooting guard to start the year. And Scottie Pippen can play the 6th man, which, again, he did a lot last year and he did a really good job of, and also filled in for Ja, which I think is also going to have to happen at different points this year. I can't see Ja playing a full season. So, but coming back to this...
He might have to play for Edie at this moment.
He might have to. It's looking pretty slim. I mean, Santi Aldama looks like he'll get the start now with Jackson Jr. out to start the year, and Edie out, and Clark out, and fucking everyone else. Yep. Jock Landale's going to get a start at this rate. But I'm going to say Ty Jerome starts at the 2, and Scottie Pippen is the backup point guard. As much as I like him as a player, I think Ty Jerome probably fits the shooting guard role. Is that the first one we disagree on?
Yeah, we'll take that. That's good.
Nice.
Moving on from that absolute slide on our otherwise perfect record of agreements. I got Philly, Maxey, PG, and Embiid are the 3 that no matter what, unless they're broken, are going to start. Now with more injuries, maybe Grimes gets re-signed and plays the 2. Do they try and put Edgecombe in? Do they put Oubre, old reliable? Do they put Edwards, less old reliable but still reliable? I'd say they'll put Edgecombe in there, especially if PG and Embiid start to fall off, just because they got to start looking towards the future and move on from those two and find who works with Maxey, who is the future of Philadelphia.
Yep. Maxey. Well, I mean, McCain's out now. He's busted, so he'll miss the start of the year. Grimes at the 2. I'm going to say they start with Kelly Oubre. I just feel like they know what they're going to get from him. It also gives them time for VJ Edgecombe. I definitely don't think he's a complete player. I don't think he comes into this. It comes into the NBA as a starting caliber small forward. I think he'd get absolutely destroyed defensively at different times. So, do they need to rush his development? No, especially not with Embiid, George, Maxey running the show. I think Kelly Oubre, they'll probably consider themselves relatively competitive at different points as well until typical Philly or everyone's legs break and they're useless again.
There'll be an Embiid's okay to play this game lineup, and there'll be a Embiid's not playing this week lineup.
Wheels up Adem Bona.
100%. Get him out there. He's a big boy. Second last one in this category is Portland. Advia and Kamara and Klingon are the 3 that I've got absolute lock. With Scoot's injury at the moment, I'm putting Drew as the starting point guard. And then it's hard to tell what they're going to do between that in that last remaining starting spot between Sharp and Grant. They never seem to want to displease Grant, but he clearly is going out, and Shaden Sharp's kind of moving in. What do you think out of those two?
I think it's Sharp. I think Grant's getting older. He barely plays after January anyway. I don't know. I just feel like they're off him. And Sharp, he's only like 23 years old. This kid is probably their main scoring option. Look at this starting lineup. It's Klingon, who's not a scorer. Kamara is typically a defender. Denny Avdia is going to have to seriously be a top 50 fantasy player this year if Portland are not going to be dead last. And Shaden Sharp is the only one. Drew's not a scorer, so he's probably the only player in this starting 5 that can actually generate his own shot.
Yeah, definitely. And my last one in this category is Washington. It would have been 4 guys a lock, but Koulibaly's had his injury, so I'm going Bub, CJ, and Sarr as my 3 locks. I reckon they'll try and find room to put Trey Johnson in there, but I don't know how they put him and Bub in at the same time. Yeah. I can't see them squeezing CJ out because they need some sort of veteran leadership on the floor. And then the replacement for Koulibaly, I've got Whitmore first, Middleton second, and then Keyshawn George as third.
Okay. So run me through your starting 5.
So, let's go, because I can't see how they can't put Trey Johnson in, but I also don't think they're going to prioritize him over Bub. So let's go to the moment. It'll be Bub, CJ, so that's the 1-2. It was going to be Koulibaly, but now it's going to be Whitmore, Middleton, or the other way around, Middleton, Whitmore, then Sarr. Yeah,
okay. Thoughts on Kismet?
Done. I don't think I think he's old news. I didn't even put him into contention there. He's worse than Middleton. He's better offensively than Keyshawn George, but they might want Keyshawn in there to be a mock-up of what Koulibaly is. So
yeah, I think Keyshawn George probably needs to find starter minutes here somewhere. Maybe they lean into Middleton when he's healthy. It might be day 1. He might be healthy, and then the second game he won't play, and the third game he'll play, the fourth game he won't play. That's kind of the way I see it. I don't know. I'm just looking at it going, is Whitmore a starter? I don't know whether he is.
On this team.
Look, he definitely could be in the NBL. I'm just not sure about whether he's a starter here or whether they use him over Middleton. I think he still probably plays decent minutes. I just don't know whether he starts. I still think maybe Middleton's the starter. And then it's, Keyshawn George at the 4, potentially. I think Bilal might have played some 4 this year. And then, Sarr at the 5. So I'd probably say Bub, CJ, Middleton, George, Sarr.
Yep. Fair.
That's probably the way I'd
maybe Trey later on in the year and less of CJ. But
Trey after Christmas is going to be red hot property for sure.
Yeah, pick him up. Now, the last 2 teams, thank you for waiting around to hear who the biggest messes are. We've only got Utah and San Antonio left, so it has to be those 2. Look, the only 2 that I can see as locks, and one might even get moved in for Utah, is Markkanen and Kessler. Who knows after that? They started with wanting it to be Keontae George, and then they kind of rolled over to Collier. I'm going Keontae, Les Collier. And then they've got Sensible, they've got Bailey, they've got Filipowski, they've got Hendricks, who was their original choice. I'm putting Hendricks at the 4, just in front of Kessler, marking it at the 3.
Yep.
And then I reckon it's a toss-up between Sensabar and Bailey to get in there behind probably, Keontae maybe.
I think Keontae, again, their depth is awful. I think Collier's done a good enough job at the back end of last year or the second half of last year to hold that role. For me, I think it's out of Sensabar and Keontae George. And I honestly think, where's the shooting is really not great. Like Ace Bailey, not really well known to be a perimeter shooter. Laurie Markkinen will let it fly until January, and then fuck knows until they trade him. Walker Kessler doesn't shoot a 3-ball. Collier's okay. Bryce Sensabaugh shot it at 422 from 3 last year. He was the 15th best 3-point shooter on over 300 shots last year in the whole league. I think that this.
On that.
Yeah, I reckon this guy. The bet is that he takes more than 300 threes and he's a top 5 3-point percentage shooter next year. Skitty doesn't think so. I do. So maybe that's why I'm higher on him starting, because I think he probably fits into this starting unit as one of their only guys who can reliably shoot the 3-ball. But again, we're throwing shit at the wall here and seeing what sticks.
Yeah, we're scattering the bones and trying to read messages. And the last one here, my where my heart always lies is San Antonio. Look, I've got Fox and Wemby as the only 2 sure things, because it could be Castle or Harper in the 2. In the 3, it could be Vassell or Champagny, who they really leaned on a lot last year. And then in the 4, it could be Barnes or Sohan. If you had to pull a starting lineup from me, I'm going Fox, I'm going Castle, I'm going Vassell, and then I'm going Barnes and Wemby. I'd like it to be Vassell and Sohan, but I just think they need what Barnes gives them. And Champagny, if he's not, might be the first guy off the bench.
Yeah, I think. I agree. I agree with the Fox, Castle, Vassell, Barnes, Wemby. I want it to be Sohan so bad. Every year, I'm like, it's Sohan's year, and he just ends up in this shitty 22-minute bench role. Harrison Barnes is like, for Harry Potter fans out there, he's like a dementor. He just goes in and he just sucks the life out of everyone around him. He just sucks up minutes so well, and does next to sweet FA with all of them. Did that
in Sacramento.
Yeah, and he's done it here again.
And Dallas. He's done everything.
I just feel like the problem then is that Sohan's not a good shooter. So it shrinks the floor for guys like Wemby can shoot over anyone, so it doesn't matter. Vassell's a pretty good shooter. Castle, obviously, we saw what he can do in patches last year, and Fox isn't known for his 3-point shooting. So it's tricky. I think it needs to be Barnes at the 4, even though I don't like it. So if Sohan can develop his game in that respect, like he'd be such a better option. He's just so limited that I don't think he can be a starter as much as I'd like him to be.
Bring back Pop. That's what I say.
100%.
You give him a chance. Yeah.
Mate, you know what? We've done all right there. We've done 30 teams in 52 minutes, and I'm sure people will understand that we can't just sit here and talk about a team for 10 minutes. If you wanted to, look, that'd be fantastic. If you want to get our thoughts on something a little bit more extended, we've done 30 team previews as separate episodes, so you can go and check them out. From the whole team, you'll get a wide variety of takes from all of us there. So go and check out them, where we talk a little bit more around the guys that we think are top guns and late draft value and all that kind of stuff. But you've got about a minute and a half on each team, I think. Maybe 2 minutes is a stretch from us on where we think everything's happening. And again, we're probably going to come back in about 3 weeks' time and go, well, that was a fucking waste of time, wasn't it? Because everything's changed. It's always the way that it goes.
Not a starting point, a jumping off point.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Very quickly, mate, you did your little draft board battle with Flanders the other day. I think we're going to have to start lining blokes up against you the way that went. How'd that go?
Love arguing. Yeah, that was good fun. We had drastically different opinions. I don't know if either of us moved the other one's mindset at all, but that's okay. We had a nice gentleman's debate, and I'm ready for the next challenger. Bring it on. Yeah,
it'll be good. We'll I think in the lead up to the season, we're less than 4 weeks away, 23 days now. I think we're away from the tip off. we'll try and get at least one of those out a week with different people within the squad, we'll call them. So that'll be fun. We'll also do our thoughts on the rankings for ESPN and Yahoo and Fan Tracks and heaps of more kind of My Guys episodes and things like that coming over the next few weeks, as well as our positional deep dive. So stay tuned for all of that. Hit subscribe and like at the bottom there, and hit the hype button if you like the show and want to get it out to more people. We'd love that and appreciate that. Follow and review on Spotify and Apple. We'll see you for the next episode. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you later.